This is Germany. In 2024, its economy stood at nearly $4.66 trillion, bigger than the combined output of countries like Spain, Poland, Sweden, and Austria, and far ahead of France or the United Kingdom. On the global stage, it ranks as the third largest economy by nominal GDP, behind only the United States and China, and still larger than Japan and Russia. In fact, it produces almost a quarter of the entire Eurozone's output all by itself. Its GDP per capita stood at $44,100 in 2024, compared to the world average of just $13,673, nearly 3 times higher. These numbers alone show the true strength of Germany's economy. But here's the real question. How did a country that was completely destroyed after World War II, split into East and West for nearly half a century, and lacking both huge natural resources like Norway and massive manpower like China or the US, rise from the rubble to become Europe's economic engine? To answer that, we need to go back in time. When World War II ended in 1945, Germany was in ruins. Cities were bombed, industries shattered, millions dead, and its economy was broken. By 1946, its GDP per capita had fallen to one of the lowest in Europe, roughly estimated at just $400 to $600. People had little to eat, factories stood silent, and the country was divided among Allied powers. At the time, Germany was even called the sick man of Europe. But then came a turning point, the Marshall Plan, an American aid program that gave billions of dollars to help rebuild Europe. In 1948, the United States provided Germany with about $1.39 billion in aid, making it one of the largest recipients. But money alone didn't transform Germany. After all, many other nations also received support, but the real difference was how Germany chose to use that aid. Germany used that aid not just to rebuild, but to invest in its people and skills. Instead of pushing everyone into universities, it developed a vocational training system, a dual education model where students split their week between classroom learning and hands-on training. Typically, they spent 2 days studying theory and 3 days working inside factories alongside skilled professionals, while also getting paid. This produced workers who were not only educated, but also skilled in practice. Over time, it built one of the most efficient, disciplined, and capable workforces in the world. But having skilled workers was only part of the story. Germany also built a special kind of economic system. On one side, there was the capitalist system like in America, where businesses had almost complete freedom and the rich often got richer. On the other side, there was the communist system like in the Soviet Union, where the government controlled almost everything and people had very little choice. Germany chose something in between called the social market economy. In this system, businesses were free to compete and grow, but workers were also protected with fair wages, unions, healthcare, and social security. This way, growth didn't only help the rich, it also helped ordinary people, creating a strong middle class and a stable society. With this foundation, Germany began to build its manufacturing sector. From cars to chemicals, from machinery to pharmaceuticals, German industries became known for one thing: quality. In fact, their quality was so strong that in the late 19th century, the United Kingdom introduced the label "Made in Germany" as a warning, hoping to discourage people from buying German goods. But the plan backfired. Over time, Made in Germany became a global symbol of excellence and reliability. Brands like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, Siemens, and BASF didn't just make products, they made symbols of trust. By the late 20th century, Germany was exporting machines, vehicles, and chemicals across the globe, giving birth to what we now call the Germany export economy. In 2024 alone, Germany exported goods worth about $1.68 trillion, an astonishing figure for a country of its size. Cars, machinery, and electronics made up the bulk of these exports, fueling industries across the globe, and together, they left behind a massive trade surplus of $260 billion, the second largest in the world after China. But here's a common misunderstanding. People often think it's only the big companies like BMW or Siemens that made Germany rich. The truth is much more interesting. Behind those famous names, there are thousands of smaller companies that Germans call the Mittelstand. These are mostly family-owned businesses, not very big, but very smart. They don't usually make products for normal shoppers. Instead, they create super specialized things like tiny machine parts, tools, or materials that other big companies around the world depend on. For example, there's a company called Connect. You may have never heard of it, but it builds giant tunnel boring machines used to dig subway tunnels under cities across the world. Companies like these are called hidden champions because they stay hidden from the public eye but are champions in their industries. And together, these middle-stand firms make up almost the entire German economy, about 99.6% of all businesses. They innovate, they export, and they quietly keep Germany's economic engine running. Geography also gave Germany a hidden advantage. It shares borders with 9 countries, more than almost any other nation in Europe. This central location makes it a natural hub for trade and transport across the continent. And right through its industrial heartland flows the Rhine River, one of the busiest commercial waterways in the world. Every year, more than 300 million tons of goods are transported along the Rhine, carrying everything from coal and steel to cars and chemicals straight into the heart of Europe and beyond. Without this natural highway, Germany's export statistics might have looked very different. As Germany grew richer, it didn't just lift itself. It also became the main financial supporter of the European Union. For the year 2025, Germany's estimated annual contribution to the European budget is about $32 billion, roughly a quarter of the entire EU budget. Whether it's bailing out weaker economies during crises or funding EU programs, Germany provides more than any other member. This generosity gives it enormous political influence inside Europe. By the 2020s, Germany wasn't just an economic engine, it was also a political heavyweight. But this rise wasn't without challenges. When East and West Germany reunified in 1990, the gap between the two sides was massive. East Germany's economy was decades behind, its factories outdated, its infrastructure broken. The cost of merging the two economies was enormous, and it slowed growth for years. Even today, differences between East and West remain visible. And more recently, new challenges have emerged. In 2023, Germany's GDP shrank by 0.3%, and in 2024, it contracted again by about 0.2%. This was the first time since 2003 that Germany slipped into recession for 2 consecutive years. High energy costs, partly due to phasing out nuclear power and losing cheap Russian gas, have badly hurt German industry. Until 2021, Germany imported nearly 55% of its gas from Russia, but after the Ukraine war, it was forced to cut this lifeline. For a country whose industries require an annual 90 to 100 billion cubic meters of gas just to function, the loss of cheap energy has been devastating. On top of this, Germany faces serious demographic pressures. In 2025, the country's median age stands at about 45, among the highest in Europe. According to UN projections, by 2050, nearly 30% of Germans will be over the age of 65, compared to about 22% today. That means as people grow older, Germany will struggle with a shrinking workforce and rising disability rates, leaving fewer hands to keep its industries running. Adding to these problems is the country's slow digitalization. While nations like Estonia are already 90% digitized, Germany still clings to outdated systems like fax machines and suffers from some of the slowest internet speeds in the developed world. Some experts even argue that the very things which once made Germany strong, its reliance on industry and exports, are now becoming weaknesses in a rapidly changing global economy. So, is Germany still Europe's economic engine, or is that engine starting to stall? As of Germany Economy 2025, the outlook is mixed. Growth is slow, industries are under pressure, and challenges like the energy transition and labor shortages loom large. Yet Germany's strengths, its manufacturing sector, its middle-stand companies, its culture of innovation, and its role as Europe's anchor are still very real. The road ahead won't be easy, but Germany has reinvented itself before, and history suggests it can do so again. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.